Got questions about security on your Teams Rooms device? Need to get past those security teams that are stopping your deployments? Look no further. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mo Mondays. In this week's episode, we are talking security, specifically security on Microsoft Teams Rooms devices. Now, on my on my second episode, I did kind of have an episode which was talking about it's just an appliance device, and it was quite brief. You know, just really talking about we shouldn't be treating Microsoft Teams Rooms devices as kind of traditional PCs and treat them as appliance devices. And I did promise all those months ago that I'd do a bit more of a deeper dive in terms of security. And in recent months, we're starting to get asked more and more questions about how are these devices being secured. And usually what happens with most of us is when we're talking to our customers around potentially deploying Teams Rooms devices, usually what will happen is you look at a Teams Rooms device, you kind of sell the dream, and then it goes through a proof of concept. While it's going through proof of concept, 9 times out of 10, it has to pass the security teams of that organization. Now, some of these security teams, you know, are kind of still living in, let's call it the dark ages, and apologies if that comes across very bad. But, you know, things have moved on since then in terms of security. It's not firewalls. It's not, you know, kind of all the old things that we used to do on machines. Microsoft has advanced, and technology, in fact, has advanced a lot more, that we have a lot more new technology here, and we need to treat things slightly differently. So in order for us to kind of get through those security tests, we always say, hey, you know, have those security guys on a call with Microsoft or your OEM account manager or you guys, you know, to ensure that they understand what is a Teams Rooms device and how these Teams Rooms devices are designed, i.e. in an appliance mode. And Microsoft has published some documentation, and I'll post that one in a second. But what I want to do is just kind of touch on some of the key points around security and what Microsoft do on devices on Windows and also devices on Android as well. So when we talk about things like simple things like cable management, how hard is it to pull out the cable from the back of the machine? Things like having a Kensington lock slot so you can secure that device in that room, and even secure mounting options as well. So we even look at, or Microsoft even looks at the physical aspect of these devices, be it on Android or be it on Windows. And then we start looking at the machine itself. Now, when we look at Windows, Windows is based on Windows 10 or Windows 11, depending on the OEM and excuse me, and the machine that's used. And it's running Windows 10, Windows 11 IoT. That's the version that we use. It's all done from factory. We highly do not recommend reformatting or re-imaging these devices. Many kind of customers, when they add devices onto their network, will want to re-image with their own kind of OS. We say no, there's no need to do that, and there's a number of reasons why. So even before the OS starts, in terms of security, Microsoft has implemented a whole bunch of different things. Things like secure boot. So secure boot will kind of check all the software, will check kind of the BIOS or the UEFI, or whatever you call it, UEFI, so the BIOS. And only if it signs every single one of them and it checks for integrity, will it then allow the OS to boot up. So up until it's gone through the secure boot aspect, and it's checking, the firmware checks the signature of each piece of boot software, the BIOS software, the firmware drivers, you know, pretty much everything, and even the OS. If it signs those signatures and it verifies them, only then will it let the OS take over kind of booting up the machine itself. We even add kind of memory protection in there. In fact, it's called DMA protection, which is direct memory access protection. So again, that's another level that Microsoft apply by default on all the machines to make sure there's no malicious attacks hitting the memory aspect of these devices from boot up all the way through to kind of the OS level when the machine is running itself as well. There is also Credential Guard enabled as well. So that's another layer that Microsoft put on there as well. And Credential Guard kind of runs within its own sandbox environment. So it sits separate. But again, that's another kind of level that Microsoft add in there. Now, Teams Rooms devices don't store any data. In fact, when we look at Windows machines all have to have a TPM chip on board for security. And that TPM chip is what will kind of secure the username, password that's on the machine itself. When we look at Android, for example, Android doesn't even store that. Android will use a broker service. It'll use kind of the company portal agent to be able to issue a token. And then it will sign into the machine. So there's no need to manually add anything onto an Android machine. So again, we kind of secure it from that aspect as well. Then the machine boots up. Now, when the machine boots up, all Teams Rooms devices are designed to be what we call appliance devices. So let's talk Windows for a second. With Windows, when it boots into kind of the Microsoft Teams Rooms app, it effectively runs what we call kiosk mode. So with that kiosk mode running, it will effectively, we call it assigned access, as you can see on the screen. It will effectively stop everything running except for what's allowed. So things like the MTR app, things like the admin agents, things like the OEM admin agents, those are the only things that are allowed to run. Nothing else is allowed to run full stop while it's in the Microsoft Teams Rooms mode. So when you boot it up and it shows the Teams Room screen, that's when it's on. So completely secure. It will not allow read-write access, command prompts, command executables. In fact, what it won't even do is load up the explorer.exe program. So the Windows Explorer that you see, you won't even see that on the Teams Rooms app. It effectively will only load what is kind of certified from Microsoft, which is the Teams Rooms app. So while you're in that mode, you're fully secure. Defender is always running in the background. So it will protect you if in the unlikely event a virus was to get into the machine. And even if a virus did get onto the machine, there's no read-write access. So, the chances of it running are really, really slim. Now, of course, there is an administrator account on every single MTR machine, Windows. We always recommend to change that admin password. The default admin password generally is SFB. It's well known in the industry. It's no secret. And most OEMs at point of boot up, the first time that you start it up, will force you to change that password. Some OEMs don't, but it's always good practice that when you are installing or restarting these machines from the very beginning, to change that administrator password. Now, the administrator account is only really used to manage and kind of configure the machine. Apart from that, it'll always boot into the Teams Rooms app. And, only people that have access or know the password can do that. If you want to go one step further, you can delete the administrator account and have it connected to Azure AD instead and administer it that way if you really wanted to. But nine times out of 10, you don't need to. Just leave the local account that sits there on the machine itself. And then, of course, always keep your machine up to date. So if you did not touch your machine full stop, it will automatically maintain and update itself. So 2 a.m. every morning, it has a maintenance window. Throughout the day, when it's not being used, it will be downloading updates and things like that. And then 2 a.m. is when it effectively gets implemented or installed, and it reboots on the machine as well. Recently, Microsoft have just launched or about to launch a new update. OEMs, so Poly as an example, do have an update applied onto their Android machines, which allows you to do nightly reboots as well. I think most Android is there, and I think Microsoft is about to or very close to launching that functionality within Teams Admin Center, which will allow you to create nightly reboots on Android. But on Windows, it's done automatically. On Windows, it already has that maintenance script built in. 2 a.m., it applies all the updates, it reboots the machine, and it's fresh and ready to go. Same thing can happen on Android as well. Of course, Microsoft also secure the network element as well. So you can use the Windows Configuration Designer and create provisioning packages. And that provisioning packages are really just used to change the compute name and, change the locality and that sort of stuff. It's not like your traditional laptop where you would, go in and assign loads of policies and things. They don't apply really to Teams Rooms. But also, with the network side, Microsoft have published a list of all the URLs and the ports that need to be opened on the machine. Now, remember, Teams Rooms only needs direct access to the internet, a local internet egress. That's it. That's all it needs. It does not need to be connected to your corporate network at all. So a lot of customers will opt to have a virtual network set up. So, it could even be on their guest network, which has a direct access to the internet, but not access to the corporate network. You don't need access to a corporate network with Teams Rooms devices. It just needs that internet breakout. That's literally it. And so again, that adds another level of security on that. Customers also say, hey, we want all of our data to pass through proxies or firewalls. Again, proxies are not recommended on Teams Rooms. And again, even the firewalls are not really needed because Teams media, so Teams Rooms media that's sent across, is encrypted anyway. And because it's encrypted, really the benefits are very minimal to having it pass through a proxy or have it pass through a firewall. So again, we recommend not to have that and just have a direct breakout to the internet. Becomes so much more easier that way as well. And of course, if you're using Pro license on your machines, it gets a bit more advanced as well. So with Pro licenses, you can enroll it into the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint as well. And that way, that gives you some more insights, and you can kind of manage and see what the machines are doing as well. It's not needed, but it is there if you are using a Pro license as well. When we look at Teams rooms on Android, they are slightly different. Android, again, a lot of organizations will kind of treat Teams rooms on Android like a Android mobile phone. The same policies you will push out to a mobile phone if your organization deploys Android devices are not required for Teams rooms devices. Just like on Windows, Teams rooms on Android should be treated as an appliance machine. Again, these devices are very secure. They have all the hardware requirements that are needed, like the Kensington lock kind of area to secure your devices down. And Android itself will also run in Android Kiosk mode as well. There's only 4 apps that are allowed to run. So you got your Teams Rooms app. You have your Microsoft Teams admin agent. You have the Intune company portal that's used for device enrollment and sign in. And then the OEM partner agent as well. So if you're using HP Poly as an example, to connect to PolyLens, there'll be an agent on the machine. Same thing with Crestron, with XIO Cloud, etc., etc. Those are the only applications that are allowed to run. In fact, on Android, it does not even have the Google Play Store. It doesn't have Amazon App Store. It does not even have Google Play services installed on the machine. So again, there's no way for you to install any applications. Now, for those of you that are thinking, oh, no, I can sideload apps. You can't. So ADB bugging, so ADB is removed from Teams Rooms and Android as well. So again, very, very secure device that we have on Android, as well as what we have on Windows as well. Now, Microsoft has published a whole kind of documentation online that talks about security. Microsoft do recommend to customers that if you really want to be secure, you can pen test machines as well. So you don't do a local penetration test. You do it, like a penetration test. And there are many reports online, that have been published, but most customers opt to do their own pen testing. We recommend go ahead, do that, no problem. But again, Microsoft do publish all the information on their Microsoft Teams Rooms admin guide. And I'll drop the link just down below. It's learn.microsoft.com/your language/ Microsoft Teams, Rooms, and then security on the left-hand side of the page. In fact, let me bring it up here on screen for you as well. And let me get rid of this banner. This is the security page. So if you've been watching my videos, you'll notice I talk a lot about the MTR admin guide. And it is like the Bible when it comes down to Teams Rooms. And you'll see here on the left-hand side, there's a whole ton of different things. And right at the beginning where we've got plan, we also have the security aspect as well. Now, when you move through security, it's a little hidden, especially if you're using the dark theme, but you'll see Teams Rooms on Windows here, and then Teams Rooms on Android. So 2 tabs that we see here in the middle of the page. And it does run through pretty much everything from hardware security and the reasons why, software security, account security, network security, the URL ports that I spoke about earlier on. Everything is here on this list as well. And again, the same thing for Android. So if you click on Android, we even provide links to device enrollment. If you want to see what the compliance policies look like for Intune or conditional access, those links are all here on this page as well. I always recommend that if you are doing a proof of concept and you've got to get through security teams within an organization, send them this link. So I'll put it up one more time. Send them this link for them to have a read through first. And then if they want, reach out to your local Microsoft account manager or your OEM account manager or even your partner account manager that understands kind of the security aspects of Teams Rooms. And we can go into a bit more detail if there's any additional questions that customers may have. Again, you can also look at, some of the OEM partners out there. So Yealink, so Poly, I think Logitech also do it as well. We'll have security white papers published as well. So you can always look at the OEM aspect and see what else they've done on top of it. But by a default, Microsoft really do lock these machines down. I've gone way over time, man. It's 15 minutes and we can talk about security for ages and ages. And I just wanted to give you kind of the brief version of security on Windows and on Android. If you have any further questions, please do drop a comment down below and one of the Microsoft team or myself will be able to answer any questions that you have. But in a nutshell, treat Microsoft Teams rooms as an appliance device. Do not think of them as PCs or Android phones. They need to be treated differently. And if customers ask why, send them the link and show them how Microsoft secure these devices. Remember, Microsoft deployed in a whole range of different verticals as well, from your standard retail to manufacturing, all the way up through to defense and government and public sector. So we have Teams rooms in kind of those areas as well, which require high security. So again, we kind of look at all of that. But any questions that you have, drop them down below on the comments. And also, if you like to different on Mo Mondays, if you've got a different subject you'd like me to talk about, please do drop that down below as well, and I will try and make those episodes for you. With that in mind, I just want to say thank you so much. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I shall see you guys next week. Ciao.